What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sleep Atomic, and we're reviewing The Mandalorian, Chapter 12, The Siege. And we pick up where we left off from the Razor Crest being in shambles and can only be described as a rust bucket. But at least our Mandalorian here knows where he's going because of Bo-Katan. And Bo-Katan tells him to go to the city of Calidus on the forest planet of Corvus to find Ahsoka Tano. So now he's heading that direction, but after a brief, I'm pretty sure it was a rigorous attempt to fix his ship himself so he could get there, and he even employs the little baby Yoda to go inside these very narrow nook under the control panels of the Razor Crest, and he's like trying to tell him to put the red wire where the blue wire was, and he already has them unplugged, but he's like not getting that far. But he at least was at that point, and all he can do is like queue up like what he has to do, and then he like tries to just kind of like give him the confidence with the eye contact and like just gentle like directions. And he's just trying to tell him not to touch the blue wire to the red wire, but I guess like the little baby Yoda is just kind of like focused on part of the sentence, and he like touches the red wire to the blue wire, and he gets like shocked and like tases himself a little bit. And I guess he's fine, but there's like clearly smoke coming from him or the wires. It's just a nice little scene of like what's been going on. And then he just decides to go to Navarro again to get the ship repaired, seeing how he can't just go straight there. So it then cuts to Cara Dune, um, taking out these the tarantula looking aliens, I wanna say. They have like tusks, like where the spider face would be, but I think they're horns. They're not sharp or anything. For some reason I really like calling them like tarantulas because they're like fuzzy, have like really big black eyes, but there's only two. And they kind of do this like grunting sounding language. I'm sure there's like an official species like for them, but I just call them the tarantula guys. But they're trying to like eat this like weasel or something. Kind of looks like a meerkat. And then Cara Dune comes in and does her thing. There's a one keeping her occupied, but she's like struggling with the one that came to uh stop her from entering the room. And she's shooting the other two or three tarantula guys behind the first one that she is struggling with, and uses blaster to shoot the other two, and then knifes one with the first one's knife. And then they start to rain down more blaster fire, and she uses the body of the very first one that she has to struggle with as a shield and a projectile, which inevitably subdues all of them, and they're just out on the ground. Is another nice like what's been going on with this character kind of a shot, because it looks like she's like looting the tarantula guys. She's like picking up like clear currency, putting it in a bag, grabbing stuff. But she's like, "Oh, I gotta take this back to the owners," while the meerkat looking thing with the red eyes is like trying to like thank her or like just kind of admire her. And she gives it some food. It's like, I gotta give this back to the owners. And you see that eventually she's just the marshal of Navarro, and Greef Karga is like kind of doing like entrepreneurial things there. But again, it's not a very big place, so as soon as they get word of someone landing and then everyone knowing it's the Razor Crest, they go to greet our Mandalorian as he lands, as you would, like knowing if someone's gonna be somewhere at a certain time. And he makes it on to the planet, and you get to see the ship once again not doing so hot. The landing bay door is like struggling to come down, and then you can see all these like rusted metal like pasted on, continuing with that like struggling ship vibe. But don't worry, it gets a very nice comeback later at the end. Its glory days are not over yet. And like they walk in, the three of them, Cara Dune, Greef Karga, Din Djarin, our Mandalorian, just kind of like enjoying the scenery, and then like they're they're letting him know that things have changed, kind of like updating him, just kind of by showing him the area. And then they're like, "Hey, like we need help with this Imperial base. It's like right outside the green territory. That's kind of like bugging us because then we could be a like main trade spot, but not before seeing one of the Mandalorians like bounties from the beginning with the blue guy. I guess he's a mythrol, and you learn about him like through the episode. He's like driving the speeder, and he's just kind of like complaining, and then Grief Karga is like threatening him. He's like, "Well, your hydration vest is not gonna last if you don't come in with us." And when he first sees the Mandalorian, he like puffs some smoke out and kind of letting us know he kind of needs to be like moisturized, but not in like a normal way, like in a aquatic fish way. It's nice seeing characters come back. He apparently owes Grief Karga 350 years of uh some debt because what he's done in the past, and so he's just there working the communications for the area for Navarro to work off that debt. And really, like anything happening in Navarro, like represents Grief Karga, as in for update with him before their little like infiltration thing. He like shows them a place where he's like the Mandalorian's like, I'm surprised this place is still standing, and it's like a school now. And they drop off our little green guy there, and he has like a little scene with like children, and he's like wanting like these blue macarons from this kid he's sitting next to, the only kid he's sitting next to, while he's like sitting at the end of a row in this class that all the kids are learning from. There's a droid teaching it. It's mostly like human children, but he wants like a piece of the macaron. Like the one kid eating his snack doesn't want to share with him, so he like uses his force powers to like, steal the whole package from him without the kid noticing until like he like goes up to eat another one. And the kid that originally had the snag was just like astounded, and that's about when the scene ends. And that's pretty much all you'll see from him, even though it's like he's the main reason why the episode starts picking up at in the middle of the infiltration later. But it goes to them trying to uh get into the base, like at the bottom of the cliffside that it's like built into, and they're wanting to start a chain reaction where the lava powering it, I believe, like uh goes wrong and gets rid of the whole base for them. And this is where the egregious, like almost comical violence to uh get rid of a problem is starts happening because he's like does everyone does something to where it's like overkill to like do it. Like first off, with Greef Karga is like the whole plan of like blowing up the base. Like you would think someone would be like, "Oh yeah, maybe we could like get rid of him and like use it somehow." But no, he wants the lava to blow up the whole thing. And the Mandalorian flies up to where the pilots go, or like where they have the vehicles and everything, which is like way up, almost nearly on top of the cliff. And you don't see what happens, but you see him like fly up with his jetpack, and then seconds later, they're like, uh, Cara Dune and Greef Karga and the blue amphibious guys talking. All of a sudden, like a stormtrooper drops in the foreground, like abruptly letting him know that what he's been doing up there. And then apparently he gets the elevator to work instead of them needing to like blow torch it and like hack the thing with the wires or whatever. I just like the little like before like the stormtrooper hits the ground, interrupting the little like frantic banter between them. It's like, you get it, like come on, like what? It's like this is just the thing for plumbing, like. But now the whole four-piece crew is up at the top of the cliffside. The mithril, the blue guy, notes out how much he can get for this mint condition Trexler Marauder, and hitting that sweet spot of stuff being relevant but not immediately being put into play. It comes in later for possibly obvious reasons, but at the time it presents itself, and you just kind of like see it as some passing like comment, which is always a great thing because it shows that you've been immersed in like the show and what they've been doing. But they like sneak around a bunch of stormtroopers. The Mandalorian was assuming it was gonna be like an empty, like little base, or not as many people to like dodge. But eventually they make it in. It looks like they have like a little like stick thing the blue guy has to like control panels that the droids you seen like do in like other episodes and like other Star Wars movies. It's just like this little cylinder thing, almost like a USB, and he like touches it to a little turn thing that R2D2 would be like spinning around. I think Greef Karga calls it a code cylinder or something. I'm sure they got it off of the security guard monitoring the security cameras. But the way Greef Karga's been talking, like maybe he like already had it. He seemed like a little more knowledgeable than like just some dude that ran the guild. But I say that and it's already like, oh, maybe like that's why he was running the guild. But this whole time he has to like pretty much up to threaten and like bribe the mithril guy. With at first he like gets him to go up with him by dropping like 100 years off his debt. Then he like drops 30 more sometime after that, and then, like after that he just like threatens him, and he's like the one that sets off the cooling thing for the base, so everything goes off. But the control panel's like on this like little column, and like this, you have to like like shuffle past like sideways, like with your back against it to get to the control panel. And the mithril blue guy is like the one that does that. He sets it off, and then after that, they find out it's like a lab because they find these like weird looking bodies silhouetted in like tanks they're floating in. And then they find a transmission from the guy from the recap and the original episode with Werner Herzog, and his character is like a scientist that he had. The one that was like defending the little green guy when he thought the Mandalorian was hired again to like take out the little green baby, but he's like, no, I'm actually gonna take that from you. And he's like wanting more like blood samples, and how he only got like a little bit from the little bit of time that he had the green guy, and sounded less like altruistic about the whole situation. And that's when everyone's like, "Oh, the kid's in danger," pretty much, and like they all like the action starts ramping up. Cara Dune's immediately like, "Oh yeah, you jetpack, go over there. Like we'll follow you." And then they have to get the Trexler Marauder like off of the little cliffside like uh little bay door, because right before where they would just like elevator down and go to the spear, like there's some stormtroopers like blocking their way, so they just have to get the Trexler Marauder and like drive it through the little block of stormtroopers and just fly it off the cliff that's probably like, I don't know, like 10 stories up, and then it lands and trashes the Mithril's like speeder. But that's when the chase scene starts happening with all the vehicles. There's some stormtroopers initially, like 3 or 4 on speeders. They got Greef Karga in the trucks of the Marauder for the cannon turret, shooting the stormtroopers, which on the screen, the tracking for the screen is just like these red outlines. It's not even like a camera or anything. It's like kind of supposed to be like simple, but it's kind of like pretty like complex. It's just like these red lines, and it's like a perfect drawing of what it sees. I guess it's trying to like uncomplicate it, but it only has like the moving targets. It doesn't have like any of the uh surrounding area, like a cliff. During the TIE fighter part, I thought he was like trying to like shoot the cliffs, but he was just like missing, so like the rocks would fall on to the TIE fighters or something. But I was just really into it. But eventually, yes, there are TIE fighters after all the stormtroopers on speeders are dispatched with. It's like, yeah, then TIE fighters, as the base is blowing up, are like taking off, their wings unfolding, which I still think is pretty cool. I'm pretty sure that was like a new addition with just the series. It's this little subtle thing of the wings like clipping closed. So one, it could structurally land, and then two, it's just like another like moving part for it. But after a long, like an intense chase, the one TIE fighter is dispatched by Greef Karga, but then eventually the Razor Crest with its comeback to glory, we'll say, comes out and finishes off the rest of them. And on top of that, he already picked up the kid, the green kid, which he apparently never gave back the macarons. He's like eating them until he like got sick. He like spits up on himself and it's like all blue on him. Not even really acknowledging the dogfight, but the Mandalorian looks over. Is like, I did good, right? Like, he's like, oh, okay. As like, he like throws up. But on the radio, he's like all official. It's like, I got something to take care of, but then I gotta go. Moff Gideon's probably gonna be hot on the trail. If we just call it even on the repairs, like you don't have to give me anything else. Not really owning up to like the dad stuff he's got to do like in a couple seconds. Like, man, I gotta get you a bib, man. That's why you can't eat all those like in a row. Man, why does everything smell like milk? This doesn't even have dairy in it, does it? But that's where we part ways with the Mandalorian for the episode, because then there's like Captain Tivo with the New Republic's like doing the post incident report with Greef Karga, and Greef Karga's like, huh? What? Razor Crest? Like, man, that thing is broken, dude. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, after the base blew up, I wouldn't know anything about that, man. And Captain Tivo, the in his orange jumpsuit, just like, really? Like, and you don't remember anything else? And it's like, this is gonna be a problem. It's happening at a lot of places. Like, nothing, man. Nothing at all. I thought it was just a regular day. Then Captain Tifa goes over, tries to like empathize with Cara Dune. He's like, "Oh, well, like when I served, like we can use one like you." And it's like, I served during Alderaan. Like, did you lose anybody? Like, he's like kind of being obnoxious, but just so Cara Dune like considers and like starts joining up with him or like helps him, but mainly to like have her join up with them. It's like obviously she lost someone. Like the whole Alderaan's gone, but he's like trying to have her like channel all that. But he's like he's being little obnoxious. Like you know how people do sometimes. But he leaves it at that, and like he leaves. It was kind of nice seeing that guy because he's like bringing the jumpsuit back and just kind of like making it mean something. He's kind of like the investigator. He's not just a pilot. And like, I guess that's technically the space cops. Seeing how he's like trying to get like witnesses and like what happened and stuff. But then there's like that little like recruitment thing. It's like we could use you in the force. Like, and then finally, then it goes over to an Imperial officer. I don't really know of the actor really, but it kind of seems to like stick out more than like other people you just kind of see arbitrarily. Even though like it doesn't seem like they have like any extra or wasted faces that don't have a role in the story. She goes over and like kind of prompts the Moff Gideon like Easter egg pretty much part of the scene. She's like, "Hey, like blah blah, like we got the signal from the Razor Crest." Moff Gideon's like, "Excellent." And every time I just see him like not doing too much, it's still like foreboding enough. He's got the armor and like he doesn't need a helmet to get the effect that the other kind of like Empire guys get or need really. With the impersonal nature of the helmet assisting the whole like effect and feel. And he's like, yes, pretty much. Like he doesn't get that intense with anything, but because of the widening shot of like these like dark figures, pretty much like hooked into the walls and the red lighting gives us an idea that he's obviously like been working on something horrific, at least pertaining to everyone else not in the Empire. And with the figures in the tanks, it probably is right to say horrific. It seems like a good action episode, and like it's launching us towards their like greater goal for this season. But that's it. Nothing too incredible to deconstruct there. There's a lot of stuff you can like add into it, compare it to, but it was a nice tour of an episode. The next one is called Chapter 13, The Jedi. That alone, I'm sure, gets some excitement, like reinvigorated into everything. With everyone showing us the other good guys of the Star Wars universe or galaxy, it'll be nice to see from the lightsaber wielding characters and possibly Ahsoka Tano, lest they draw it out even further. But this was Sleep Atomic, and I'm Alistair. And if no one told you yet, you look good, and it shows.